Every year in a forest somewhere in Northern California, there is a secret ceremony, far away from the watchful eyes of the public and mainstream media. The attendees, the most powerful and influential people in the world. Former US presidents, powerful business leaders, bankers, CEOs, and a few actors and other artists. The event is so secret that ex-military men guard the area, equipped with night vision goggles, thermal cameras, and motion detectors. No one is allowed to come close to this area. No one is allowed to see what's about to happen. Sometimes even the Secret Service is there to help out, and there is good reason for that.
So he went and snuck in to this place where like former presidents go. There's a photograph of it's Ronald Reagan with Herbert Walker Bush and a couple other people all standing around. And it's like, these are the people that used to hang out at this place, and they would put on robes and they would worship an owl god, and they would burn an effigy. And then no one's denying that it's real. This really did happen. So they're in with these bankers and former presidents, and they're dressed like druids.
Yes.
And some guy brings over something that it's an effigy that's supposed to be a body, a wrapped up effigy. It's also a bunch of sticks in a blanket, but it's like shaped like a body.
Yeah.
And then they drop it on the fire, and they're all worshiping an owl god.
But what exactly are these powerful men doing in this forest? Is this the secret society that runs the world? Is this ceremony their chance to act out their satanic fantasies? Or is it just a club for the rich and powerful to have a good time far away from the public? My name is Jake Tran. I make documentaries on money, power, war, and crime in my team. Subscribe for more. If you want to win $1,000 cash, all you have to do is follow me on Instagram at Jake Tran and you're automatically entered. A few of you have won already. Watch out for fake accounts. I would never message you asking for money or to invest. And this is Bohemian Grove, the most powerful secret society in the world. All these powerful people have one thing in common. They all have a great team behind them. The most successful companies out there are the ones with the best team. The same goes for my team and this channel. These videos would not be as good without them. That is why it's so important to hire the right people. But the problem is finding the right people is really tedious and expensive. You have to go through hundreds of applications and resumes, most of which aren't a good match. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Thankfully, that is where ZipRecruiter comes in, the #1 rated hiring site. If you've got a business and you're looking to scale, you've got to start using ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is an online marketplace that helps connect top employers with the very best applicants, thanks to their powerful AI matching technology that matches you with the right candidate for the right job. That's why on ZipRecruiter, 4 out of every 5 employers get a quality candidate within the first day. You can easily review, filter, and rate recommended candidates. Then you can personally invite your top choices to apply. And then boom, before you know it, you found the perfect person that will take your company to the next level. Plus, ZipRecruiter actually learns from your ratings and sends you similar candidates in the future. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. In fact, the hardest thing you have to remember is my special URL, ziprecruiter.com/JakeTran. That is where you can go and try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ziprecruiter.com/JakeTran. Thanks to ZipRecruiter for sponsoring this video.
So you're a US politician with ambitions to run for the presidency one day. Day in and day out, you have to navigate the ruthless environment of Washington, D.C. Your enemies are watching your every move, getting in your way whenever they can. They're trying to get under your skin, hoping that you fly off the handle. They're working to destroy your reputation with nasty rumors they leak to the press. They're trying to use you as a puppet for their agenda. But you can't let any of that happen. You want to become US president after all. So you have to be on constant alert, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, fighting an uphill battle every step of the way. To make things worse, the mainstream media keeps attacking you on a daily basis. But you can't show any sign of weakness, so you just shrug it off as if it's no big deal. But even though you seem calm and collected on the outside, all these battles are starting to get under your skin. This presents a unique problem. How are you supposed to relieve all that stress? You can't just go to a nightclub with a few buddies to get drunk and dance the night away. No, no, no. You are a powerful man in the public eye. You have a reputation to uphold. The paparazzi would be all over that. And if you let go and act silly for just a second, the media would tear you apart. One wrong move, one scandal, and your political career is over. But you have to blow off some steam somehow. Otherwise, you will soon crack and have a complete mental breakdown. The solution? A secret, super exclusive camping trip reserved for the rich and powerful elite just like you. A place where you can let go of all your worries, enjoy creepy rituals, and network with the most powerful people in the world, far away from the watchful eyes of the public and the press. Welcome to Bohemian Grove. In the late 19th century, San Francisco was full of creative people with a can-do spirit. Artists lived out their creative streak in their paintings, novels, and dramas. And in the spring of 1872, around 150 years ago, a group of writers, actors, and journalists wanted to enjoy their art in a more exclusive and private setting. So they founded the Bohemian Club, a kind of secret society where artists could express themselves freely in all their unique ways, far away from all the ignorant people out there in the real world. There was just one problem. Most artists were quite poor. It's one thing to express yourself artistically and live the bohemian lifestyle, but at some point, you gotta pay rent. So the leaders of the Bohemian Club had an idea. Why not invite a few rich businessmen who appreciate the arts? They could enjoy the exclusive atmosphere of the club and brag about being friends with real artists of San Francisco. And in return, they could show their gratitude with some financial support. It was a brilliant move. All of a sudden, these artists could live out their wildest ideas while being supported by their sugar daddies. Their time as starving artists was finally over. Now, they just had to find a secret spot to enjoy their art together. And soon, they found the perfect place, a redwood forest near Monte Rio, California, or what they called the Bohemian Grove. They built camps for their members with strange names like Lost Angels, Owl's Nest, and Caveman. And every camp would be home to a few members who could get drunk together, build close friendships, and live out their artistic spirit. But even though it seemed like heaven on earth, the fate of the club would soon take a dramatic turn. You may think that these artists were living the dream, that they could run wild with their ideas while collecting money from their rich friends. But with so much money and status floating around, the club's dynamic quickly changed. Only 8 years after the club's founding, a group of painters and writers complained that the club had become too commercialized, too mainstream, and that the true bohemian spirit was dead. All this money and social aspirations meant death to genius and a general dead-level mediocrity. Artists were slowly being replaced by the powerful and wealthy elite of the country. Bankers, industry leaders, CEOs, leading scientists, they all wanted to join the exclusive party. And their money and influence made creativity take a back seat. Then another tribe of powerful men joined the club, US presidents. Dwight Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, George Bush Sr. They all joined the Bohemian Club before they became President of the United States. George Bush Sr. joined the club in 1973 and moved into the camp called Hillbillies. His roommates? Top executives from Bank of America and General Motors. 2 years later, Ronald Reagan was inducted into the Bohemian Club and moved into the Owl's Nest camp. While George Bush was chatting with the president of the Bank of America, Reagan was hanging out with the CEO of United Airlines. You may think that with so many powerful people rubbing shoulders, they make plenty of shady business deals or come up with secret plans to rule the world. But the club has a strict rule: weaving spiders come not here. Meaning, no networking, no business deals, no secret plans. The Bohemian Grove is a place to let go of your worries, enjoy the arts, and get wasted. But as you already know, rules are made to be broken. It's safe to say that everyone goes to Bohemian Grove with their own agenda. And how could you blame them? Over a nice dinner in the wilderness next to CEOs and presidents, secret deals happen on their own. It's rumored that the early planning stage of the infamous Manhattan Project happened during the Bohemian Grove in 1942. Only 3 years later, atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, leveling both cities and putting an end to World War II. One of the highlights of the Bohemian Grove are the so-called Lakeside Talks, the off-the-record speeches by politicians and business leaders. It's a chance for these powerful men to talk about their agenda to bend the world in their vision, far away from pesky reporters. Politicians especially love giving a lakeside. It's the perfect chance to get some exposure without violating the club's rule number 1, weaving spiders come not here. It's just a casual chat by a club member after all. But in reality, it may be the first day of their presidential campaign. They can share some of their ideas with the most powerful people in the country, see how they react, and find out who might back them should they decide to run for the presidency. And the one man who knows the importance of these lakeside talks better than anyone else is Richard Nixon. In 1950, Nixon listened to Eisenhower's lakeside speech, which must have charmed the right people. Nixon later said, quote,
"It struck me forcibly that Eisenhower's personality and personal mystique had deeply impressed the skeptical and critical caveman audience," end quote.
3 years later, Eisenhower became the next US president. 17 years later, it was time for Nixon's own lakeside speech. At that point, he was considered damaged goods because of his failed candidacy a few years earlier. So this time, he had to prove himself all over again. And it was a huge success. 2 years after his lakeside speech, Nixon moved into the Oval Office. He later wrote, quote, "If I were to choose the speech that gave me the most pleasure and satisfaction in my political career, it would be my lakeside speech at the Bohemian Grove in July 1967. Because this speech traditionally was off the record, it received no publicity at the time, but in many important ways, it marked the first milestone on my road to the presidency," end quote. 3 years later, Nixon wanted to give another speech, now as President of the United States. There was just one small problem. The US president can't just disappear to get hammered in a forest and give a private speech to the most powerful men in the country. When the press heard about it, they said they would join the party to cover the event. And they had a few questions in mind. What were all these powerful men doing in a secluded forest in the middle of nowhere? What were they talking about? Is anything going on here that the public should know about? It wasn't exactly what the Bohemian Club wanted. Their secret rituals and speeches had to be protected at all costs, so the club leaders told Nixon to sit this one out. In 1995, former President George Bush Sr. used his lakeside speech to introduce a special guest, his son George W. Bush. And he had a clear message for his audience. His son would make a great president one day. And we all know how that one turned out.
On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
These lakeside speeches are still one of the best kept secrets in America. No one knows what they're talking about each year, and it's quite difficult to sneak around all those ex-military soldiers guarding the place. So if you want to see these lakeside talks live, so you know exactly what the powerful elite is planning next, maybe it's time for you to become a member of this secret society. And here is how. Step number 1, have an impressive career in politics or business, preferably both. Step number 2, get at least 2 Bohemian Club members to invite you to the club and have them vouch for your remarkable character. Step number 3, impress the membership committee. Show them that you have what it takes to be a good Bohemian. If you have a talent for acting and drama, that's a big plus. Step number 4, scrub any history of you watching this channel. Step number 5, pray that the majority of the membership committee votes for you when it's time to pick new members. Step number 6, enjoy your time being on the waiting list for the next 5 to 10 years. But don't just sit around, use the time to become even richer and more powerful. Step number 7, you're finally accepted? Great! Welcome to the Bohemian Club. Now it's time to pay the initiation fee of $25,000. But you're a multimillionaire by now, so that's chump change. Step number 8, get ready for the creepy ritual to kick off the yearly summer camp. Now that you've made it into this secret society, it's time for your first Bohemian Grove. And just like every year, it begins with a strange ritual called the cremation of care, a dark tradition meant to let you go of all your worries and responsibilities. As you're standing there in the middle of the forest, surrounded by millionaires, billionaires, and future presidents, all with the same tense faces, you feel that something strange is about to happen. Suddenly, you see a few men in red robes and red hoods marching forward. Some of them are playing sad music, others are carrying long torches. But they're carrying something else, an open coffin. You take a step closer and risk a look inside. Is that a human body? Is this some kind of satanic ritual? But then you look more closely and see that it's just a human effigy, a model of a person. Or maybe it is a real person, who knows? They call it the body of care, and it represents all the worries and woes that the powerful elite is carrying on their shoulders every single day. But now, it's time to burn all those worries away for good, or at least for a few days. The men slowly keep marching forward to the altar where Mr. Care is about to get sacrificed, under the watchful eye of a giant owl. Yes, you heard that right. The most powerful men in the country, wrapped in red robes, are about to burn a human effigy in front of a giant owl. After the choir finishes their song, the high priest announces that the pyre is waiting for the body of Care. A pyre is a heap of stuff that is to be lit on fire. The men carry the coffin to the pyre in front of the owl, and it seems like Mr. Care is about to meet his maker. But then Mr. Care makes it clear that he's not gonna go down without a fight. After some intense back and forth, the priest has heard enough. He grabs a torch and lights the body of Care on fire. As the flames leap higher and higher, all the worries of the powerful elite melt away. Is the Bohemian Grove just a summer camp for powerful men who want to let go of their worries for a moment? Or do they actually use it to craft secret plans to rule over society far away from the public eye? Most likely both. After all, with so many powerful men coming together in a secluded forest, secured by ex-military men, it's hard not to discuss secret plans. Like the CIA's MK-Ultra program, for example. During the Cold War, the CIA believed the Soviets had found a way to turn everyday people into emotionless puppets that would do anything they told them to, including killing others without any sense of remorse. But instead of being horrified by the idea, the CIA was intrigued. So they started their own little side project called MK-Ultra. The scientists behind MK-Ultra would test all sorts of drugs and torture techniques on as many people as they could. One of their objectives was to turn their victims into a so-called Manchurian candidate, a programmed killer who would kill on command and forget about it a moment later. It's one of the darkest chapters in CIA history. But talking about all the details of MK-Ultra, the psychological torture, the LSD experiments, and all the brainwashing was beyond the scope of this video. Besides, the vivid details of torture would trigger all kinds of red flags with the YouTube algorithm. Luckily, we've released a deep dive into every dark, evil secret MK-Ultra holds as a private documentary available only to members of this channel, and members have been loving the documentary. All you have to do to get to watch this private documentary right now, and all the other documentary-length videos that are too controversial, too dark, too risky to post publicly, is click the join button below. Once you sign up, you'll get exclusive access to MK-Ultra, the CIA coup in Iran, CIA black sites, the Bin Laden papers, Jeffrey Epstein, and many more to come. These are the things they should be teaching you in university about how the world works, but they don't. And unlike university, you get all of this for just $5 a month. And there's a refund policy too, unlike most YouTube memberships. So if you join and you don't think it's worth it, email us within your first month of joining and we will personally refund you for your first month. After your first month, there is no refund. So scroll down and hit that join button now.
I have been wanting to do this video for a really long time, so let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. And if you're new here, my name is Jake, and this is one of the biggest channels on YouTube for documentaries on money, power, war, and crime. So if you enjoyed this one, click that subscribe button below, because we make multiple documentaries just like this one every single week for free. And if you want shorter versions of these videos, you can follow me on Facebook. But that's gonna wrap it up. Stay dangerous out there, and I will see you guys in the next one.